Welcome to the Blueprint of Life video 8. In this video, we're going to be following on from our discussions about monohybrid crosses, and we're going to be looking at alleles again, and then we're going to be looking specifically at how we can trace the inheritance of these alleles through what we call a pedigree chart. Again, we have a lot of meta language here, which we're going to refer to, which will make understanding the content and questions asked a little easier. So again, here we have an alternative definition of a gene, similar things, but just different in case you needed a bit more explanation. And it's a unit of inheritance that determines a particular characteristic. And for an allele, we have alternative forms of a gene that determine a given characteristics. And alleles occur in pairs, and they vary in their effect depending on that pairing that takes place. The genotype is the genetic composition of an organism, whereas the phenotype is the outward physical appearance. So, in fact, some organisms can have different genotypes but similar phenotypes. And then we have a pedigree, which is a graphical representation of the inheritance patterns of a particular trait in related individuals over a number of generations. So here we have a diagram which is depicting to us a few different things about alleles, genes, and heterozygous and homozygous. So alleles, we know that there are different forms, and we can see if we're looking just at the top here, that on the chromosome pair, that the maternal chromosome has two dominant alleles, so the two capital T's, and we can see that on the paternal chromosome we have two recessive alleles. So for something to be heterozygous, as we covered last video, it will have to have both a dominant and a recessive allele, and then something can either be homozygous dominant or homozygous recessive. And if something is homozygous dominant, then we see them as having both of the dominant alleles, and if something is homozygous recessive, they have both of the recessive alleles. If we use the word locus, it just means the position of a gene on a chromosome, and that we remember that a gene is coding for a particular trait. When we refer to pedigree charts, they're sometimes family trees, but they're a biological family tree that are in fact constructed on the phenotypes present in related individuals and is used to trace inheritance. It's usually done so we can determine how many family members have a genetic disorder, to determine the gender of affected individuals, and we can also determine how individuals are related. And then once we have that information, we're able to determine inheritance patterns, assign genotypes to individuals if we can, and then we can make predictions about the risks of individuals inheriting genetic disorders. And if you were lucky enough to study our Stage 5 Rita Hill Science course, we did do a pedigree chart for our genetic case study. Some of the advantages of having a pedigree or using a pedigree is that it can be used to advise parents on minimizing or avoiding the risks of producing a child with a defect. It is used by researchers to develop programs to eliminate inherited defects in populations, and it can also be used in studies to identify and select only individuals at risk, to refine the study and limit gene analysis to only relevant individuals. In terms of some of the limitations, it's only useful when studying animals that do not produce too many offspring. It relies on accurate and reliable record keeping within families to have the right information being used to construct the pedigree chart, and that the same genetic defect may be due to changes in different genes. So sometimes carriers of diseases can be inaccurately assessed. Again, here is a link to another video which may help to explain pedigree charts further. This was video 8. Make sure you tune in for video 9.